To this public demonstration of the interface for the Commission's new online public inspection file. I am Bill Lake, Chief of the Media Bureau. The new interface for the public inspection file will be used by TV broadcast stations to upload their files and by members of the public to view the files. The creation of the online public file is a consequence of the Commission's decision in a report and order adopted April 27th that TV broadcasters will no longer be required to store their public files in hard copy at their stations and studios. Rather, the station's files will be uploaded to a Commission-hosted online database that will be maintained by the Commission. The Commission first adopted rules requiring broadcast stations to maintain a public file more than 40 years ago, and some political time files for broadcast stations have been public for more than 75 years, nearly 75 years. Each station's public file contains a variety of information about the station's operation and service to its community of interest, including information about political time sold or given away by each station, quarterly lists of the most significant programs each station has aired on issues of importance to its community, data on ownership of the station, applications the station has filed with the Commission, and about 15 other types of information about the station. Some of this information has been maintained at the station only, and some of it has been maintained at the station and also filed with the Commission. The new online public file will enable users to access both sets of information in one place, with the exception of some files being phased in and one being exempted for privacy concerns. As of August 2nd, the effective date of the new rules, TV broadcast stations will upload most of their public files using our new interface and will no longer have to maintain a separate hard copy file at the station or studio. Documents already at the Commission will be linked into the online file by the Commission. This demonstration today is one of the ways in which the Commission is fulfilling its commitment to test the new online public file and educate the public for its use. Even before the Commission adopted the report and order in April, Commission staff from the Media Bureau and other bureaus and offices have been working with Greg Elin, the Commission's Chief Data Officer, and his staff to develop the new public file interface. Once development and initial review were completed, we began testing the product, first using in-house staff and then using volunteers from stations and firms that represent stations. We now enter the demonstration phase. This demonstration is being streamed live over the internet and will be archived for later viewing on the Commission's website. Our focus throughout this effort has been on making the online file easier for broadcasters to use and more accessible to the public than the old paper files. We are moving from an antiquated hard copy filing system that had limited accessibility to a new 21st century internet-based electronic file system. We fully expect that TV stations will find it easier, not harder, to use the new online filing system, both in uploading the elements of the public file and in maintaining the accuracy of the information. The public will find that the station's inspection files, much of which had been stored in filing cabinets in approximately 2,000 different station locations across the country, are now only a click or two away. Moving public file information from stations' filing cabinets to an electronic format online is a common-sense first step that significantly improves the public's access to information to which it should have easy access. While we recognize that creating more fully searchable, machine-readable formats is a long-term goal, we expect FCC data experts and third parties to actively develop ways including crowdsourcing, to make documents more searchable. In the near term, putting stations' well-ordered public files online will make a real difference in accessibility to the public. I now turn to Greg Elin, our Chief Data Officer, and the person most responsible for the development of the new online public file, to run through a demonstration of the interface and the filing system. Thank you all for being here. Greg.
That has me optimistic. So thanks, Bill, for the introduction, and thank you all for coming in today, and for everyone who is tuned in to the webcast. We're going to be giving a demonstration of the interface to this, and I want to say that we took very seriously on the technical side all of the illuminating comments that were filed about the possible challenges with the system and what's been experienced using some other filing here at the FCC. We studied those very hard, and we had the overriding interest of making this much easier to use by the public, much easier to use by practitioners in the broadcast stations. So I'm going to show you the interface. I'm going to walk you through a few different features. Let me walk you through the beginning of it, and then as you have questions, we can answer those questions. If you're watching on the webcast, you can send email questions. You can email questions to livequestions@fcc.gov. All right, so let me introduce you to the TV station profile and public inspection file application. So this is the primary page for a given station. And I'm just going to scroll down a little bit so you can see the information. We wanted to put everything much more in one place. We wanted to move away from the idea of having to go to different databases to find information that was about the same station, and that you could go to one page and you could easily get to all of the related information. So some basic information about the station, including its facility ID, a search box to easily look up other stations, contours, some of the primary contact information. This information is already available at the FCC. It's just been in different places. So what I'd like to do is to first show you how certain common tasks were done or are currently done on the FCC website, and how you would do them through this application. So the first one is looking up a call sign and finding a station. So ordinarily, I would click on Station Search, and it would bring me to a database page. I'm going to type in the station that we're just looking at, WRC-TV, and I get a list. There's only one on it. I click for the details, and I get my basic station information. So let me show you how we would look up a different station in the new application, and that's how you'd look up a new station. So now, if I wanted to, we have another common task is looking at the station's authorization, its license, and just finding out that basic detail. We are kind of organized in many ways around applications at the FCC in our legacy systems. So the way that I would do that is I would type in my call sign again, and now I get back a list of applications, and I would need to know which application I would have to look up. And I happen to know the form number, so I know that application, and I can then go and look at the license. In the new TV station profiles and public inspection files, this is how I look up the license. So since we are using demo data, Let me try another station. There we go. So it's available right there. I was also going to make this point by showing how to look up a contour map, but would that be helpful for everyone? Or okay, great. So in the old way, if I wanted to look up a contour map, I have to actually go to TV Query. I have to know where TV Query is. That's I think the primary way a lot of people look up call signs. So I'll put in WRC TV again. And I get a long page, again with another list, and I have to know which is the right transmitter that I'm looking for. This is the old system, what we currently have up at the FCC. And now that I have a lot of engineering data, I would have to go down here and where we have a link to the map and have the basic contour. On the new system, if I want to see the contours in more detail, it's a single click, takes me to the same place. So let me just give you a tour of some of the other elements that are. Yes?
Sir, back earlier, that list you had, it was quite an extensive list. And you said you knew what the phone number is. How someone from the public can look at that, how are they going to know what the phone number is?
Well, so when I was previously back on this page, this is what people have been using for a number of years at the FCC, including FCC staff. And in order to look at the right information, you need to know what you're looking for. And so this has frequently been used only by people who are in the field, consultants and other policymakers who know what they're looking for, and they just happen to know what the right form is. And that has been a significant drawback for easily accessing some of the system. There are a number of organizations outside of the FCC who take this information that's publicly available and they create nicer interfaces to it to make it easier to search. And many people use those other venues to search. But I think that that's one of the challenges with our legacy system is you would have to know. In the new system, one of the things that we've tried to do is move away from abbreviations where we can and move much more to plain English while still retaining the proper language. So what we've done here is I've just looked at all of the applications that are associated with WTTG, and you can see what the status is more easily, and there are also classes of different types of applications and authorizations, and you can more easily click through those. So ideally, this becomes a much easier way to navigate. So in addition to applications, I can go into the ownership reports and see the ownership reports. We've gathered them in one place. Equal opportunity. And these are all pretty much working the same way. And if I wanted to view any particular one, I just click on it and I get that information. I'm going to give a brief peek at the political file, but we'll save more of that for when we do the filing part of the demonstration. So we've organized it into the common categories, and we've tried to represent the way that people are already working by putting documents into file folders. So I can go into federal, I'd be able to go into U.S. House, and all of the congressional districts would be there, as well as the candidates. And we are able to get this information from the Federal Election Commission, and stations will also be able to modify it and adjust for their particular station. We have the rest of the sections of the public inspection file are accessible, and they're also in folders in the same way. So it'd be easy to navigate to these. And you'll notice that we are taking a little bit from social media in terms of having an activity feed, so it's more easy to see what has recently happened at a given station.
Could you expand on that?
Well, we're keeping a log file of different transactions, much in the same way as if you posted an image to your Facebook. So we're keeping this log. It's much more detailed on the broadcaster side, so that internally you can track what work has been done on the electronic version of the public file. But we thought it would be nice to have a more summary information available for the public to see just recent activity that has happened. All right, I want to just briefly mention that we have built this on top of web service APIs to our existing CDBS database and other information. So the information that's presented here, although it's demonstration data that we're working with today, it's actually it will be connected to our current systems in CDBS, getting that information in real time through an API, and that API will be available to the public and to stations so that they can actually more easily access that information and develop alternative applications for it. Okay, so I'm now I'm going to shift to the broadcaster side of the equation, which I'm sure everyone is curious a bit. So I'm going to hop over to a slightly different browser. Let me get, okay. This works in both Mozilla and Firefox, everything that I'm showing you, and much of it works in IE. There are a couple of things that don't work in IE that we're still working on. All right, so I'm going to log in. So I come to my station when I log in. And I see basically the same information. We've organized along the left side all of the different components of the public inspection file to make it easier for the stations to navigate through. And I think people have experience with what it's like. Let me give you a little bit more. Forgive me. Let me give you a little bit more a tour of what we have here. We're going to have some help screens with videos, which show the different components of it from a broadcaster's side and how to do things, so that you'll be able to get help immediately. We'll also have our usual hotline set up for first tier and second tier support. We have a settings page so that you can modify your logo if we don't have the right logo and do a couple of other things. And we have this history page, which shows you in more detail what work has recently been done on that station's public inspection file. Okay, so now let's go to the fun thing, how we file. So I'm going to go into the political file. Okay, so I'm at a candidate for Maryland District, Congressional District 1. Now, if I want to file documents here, I'm just going to click Upload. Now, I can click the traditional Add Files, Upload, and get the usual dialog box that people have seen before and attach a couple documents. But we wanted to make it easier because we know that stations could often have a lot of files and in different places. So what we wanted to do was make it possible to select multiple files and just drag and drop them. And once I've drag and dropped them, I can click Upload all the files, and those files are now in the public inspection file.
presumption that all files will be uploaded in PDF format?
The presumption is not that all files will be uploaded in PDF format. We expect people to be able to upload Word documents, Excel documents, text files, HTML, all of the common formats. Now, we have a policy at the FCC of taking documents that we receive in electronic comment filing system and other things that come in one format and generically tending to convert them to PDF. And one of the reasons that we do that is to make sure that we're not accidentally transmitting any unintentional viruses that might be in the native format. But we will accept all of the common types of formats.
One of the problems in the past has been that excuse me, go ahead. No, do you want to wait for this question?
Or do you want to use the microphone? Do we want the microphone?
Use the microphone or repeat the question. What
I'll
would
repeat
you
the
prefer?
question. Sure.
Okay.
One of the problems in the past is that you have to break up documents that were too large. And some of these things, especially in political season, will be large. Will this have a byte limit, or will it be an enormous byte limit that nobody could ever reach?
We are hoping to do the question was that in other systems at the FCC, sometimes there has been a size limit for the file. And the stations have had to break the file up into smaller pieces in order to file it. And would we be able to accept larger files? Would the byte size of the files be much larger that we could accept? There is an upper limit, but we're currently looking at an upper limit that's in the tens of megabytes for a document or larger. So we're not anticipating. We're hoping that we can make the size of the files we accept 10, 50 megabytes so that you won't have to break it up. Do you happen to recall a particular size document?
You know, the problem is you've been practicing for a while. It's a moving target. And
Right.
It's after. So when 5 megabytes was an enormous file,
Right.
you couldn't file it. And so
We're not anticipating that problem right now. We're anticipating having enough storage. I think there was another question.
Did you say that big end docs and Excel and so on that you converted in PDF?
Yes, I did say that. I said that we could different document formats can be filed with the FCC, but the FCC has a generic policy of translating those to PDF in part to avoid accidental transmission of viruses. And we're kind of studying other possibilities of how we look at that. Hold on for 1 second. There's a question in the back.
If I could backtrack for just one moment, when someone is going to enter this particular stage to upload their document,
Yes.
and they enter in their FRN and the password, can they establish their own unique station password that is separate from the password that's currently on file
Right.
with that FRN?
The question that was asked was in relationship to
Somebody hold these and
the question that was asked was in relationship to the authentication of the user from the station that's using the system. And if it was possible to create a unique identifier and password for the station for them to upload rather than using the FRN and password. We had this issue come up in user testing about how to limit access to a station file to one or two individuals for that station file. And we are looking really hard at how to implement that before launch. So we understand that it's an issue for a number of stations. Some suggestions have been connecting the CDBS login, because some organizations have limited CDBS logins to particular stations. We're also looking at the possibility, although it's not our first choice, is that you could create an FRN that's uniquely for just that one station and use that. So we're exploring some of the possibilities, and we understand that this is, and I guess this is an important concern for. Okay, she's nodding yes. So that's. All right, so we're hearing that very clearly, that that's an important concern and that we want to address. I'll take one more question at this junction, but then I'd kind of like to move forward and with a couple of other elements. Was there another question or? Okay.
What's to prevent the system from crashing on the very first day? Everybody's trying to upload all these files.
we have planned for a capacity around an initial surge of people and coming and looking, et cetera. Now, one of the key things that we've done is we're putting all of the broadcasters on dedicated hardware that would be separate from the public coming to look at the system. And that way, we know for sure that we're limited in terms of the number of broadcasters to just over 2,000 stations. So they will all be able to log in at any time without any problem. If we have a high spike with the public, we're doing a number of things from a technology point of view in terms of caching information and also having some redundancy up in the cloud so that we can spill over and support that. Okay. Can I move forward and we can come back to your question? Sure. Okay. Let's see. All right, so you just saw the drag and drop filing. That's actually something that's now common with modern browsers, and we've implemented it here at the FCC. It's easy to look at any one of these, to just click it and bring it up. Sorry, I closed the wrong window. So I can easily get back. Let me see where we are. Okay. You are able to bring up the screen that the public would see of those. As a broadcaster, if you want to see what your profile looks like, you'd be able to bring it up from here. The other thing that we learned when we were doing some testing is that there's some subtlety around which applications that have been filed with the FCC should be in the public inspection file. Now, we're very committed here at the FCC that if there's an algorithm and a rule set that we can use to determine which documents that have already been filed with the FCC belong in the public inspection file, and we have wide agreement with that algorithm, we will implement that algorithm and we will do it automatically. And if we can implement that algorithm to determine when a document has grown stale or should be removed, we will also do that. But we found out that there's still a lot of edge cases associated with certain documents. And so what we've done is we've added along the right side. Can you all see this well enough? Should I try to zoom in a little bit? You can see? Okay, great. What we've done along the right side is we've given a simple switch where you can mark a document either in the file or out of the file. And if you identify...
If they get it wrong, is there a possibility of a fine?
I'm going to hand that question over to someone, but I would say if they get it wrong, I think generally FCC wants to have good resolutions, and this would be the solution. So... But we wanted to make this easier, and we wanted to address this issue. So this is a way to ultimately give the broadcasters control over what's there. And as I said before, we have the activity so you can see what the history was. Okay, so we thought that the drag and drop filing was fairly slick and a significant improvement for moving lots of documents around. But we realize that the stations are faced with two challenges. One challenge is they have to put online their archive, their larger archive that they have of the public file. And so for the first 6 months when they're getting that ready, they have a lot of files that need to be moved. The other issue is that when it comes to the political file, people might be filing every single day. And we wanted to make that really easy. So what we have done is we took a suggestion that the National Association of Broadcasters made in the comments that we look at innovative ways, including Dropbox, and see how that could be used in the service. So I would like to now demonstrate that. Let me take you through a couple of screens here first. So the first one is that I have the ability to say, hey, I want to connect to Dropbox and connect my Dropbox account to the station. And as you can see here, we have Dropbox integrated, but there are some other file sharing services that are out there. Box and Microsoft SkyDrive, and Google has come out with one. So our intention is to support the major ones that people are using so that if people are working with Box instead of Dropbox, we can support that. Each of these services have a free tier to use for the documents. Now, I guess I'm going to pause here for a moment and ask a question of the audience. How many people here are familiar or use Dropbox currently or something like that? Okay, so just under half of the audience that's here. For those who have not used it, are you familiar with it? Or, okay, so what has happened is because we've had a proliferation of our devices, our iPhones, our iPads, our tablets, our computer at work, our computer at home, people are getting tired of carrying around USB drives and keeping the files synchronized. So what Dropbox and Box and the file sharing services have done is they've created a piece of software that runs on your computer, and any folder that you put inside of the Dropbox folder is shared with your other Dropboxes that are on your other devices. So any file that I put into my file sharing folder is automatically synchronized up to the cloud and then synchronized back down to my mobile device, etc. So we thought we could do the same thing, but instead of synchronizing that document to your mobile device, you would just synchronize it to the FCC. So it turns out that Dropbox supports something called applications. So we created a Dropbox application. You have to grant authority to use our application. You have control of it. And it creates a folder that's specifically for your station. And inside that folder, we put all of the electronic folders, including the political file, and all right, so I'm going to create, including the political file, so let me create a, I guess we didn't have those created. Let me create an MD01 folder. And I'm going to, I am just going to drag an entire candidates folder in there. Now, these documents are effectively filed with the FCC. When we did some testing with this, one of the things that we found out was, so I just created these folders. They've now been synchronized. Well, they've been moved up into the cloud. Now, there was some concern about that. So what we have done is we've given you control to decide when you want to synchronize that folder. So you can organize your folders. And then when you're ready, you would just synchronize. And this does take a little bit of time. Yes?
While we wait for it to synchronize, from the user or the public's point of view, are you able to easily see, you have the recent activity there, does it show the most recent files have been added? In other words, you've got all these subfolders. If one was added to this subfolder and another file was added to this subfolder, do you have to dig down through them, or can you find them, sort of sort them all by newest? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. I think what you're asking is, if we have a folder structure, can I speed my way to the documents that are most recently uploaded, and other ways to organize it. And our intention is to support those types of features to make it easier to find the new material, navigate around, et cetera. And we have control over that. At this current time, our focus has really been on making sure that this is easy and robust for the stations to get started. So we haven't implemented some of those additional improvements. Okay, so I've just synchronized the file. And if I go into Federal, U.S. House, and you can see that Jim Rowland, the entire folder, has been added, as well as 12 items. And there are the documents. So the idea would be that a station could create their own workflow for getting the documents set up locally on their file system, and then be able to synchronize it up and transmit it to the FCC. You can copy and paste documents into your Dropbox folder. You can do print to PDF and put the documents in the Dropbox folder. Or the other.
Correct.
Yes?
I wanted to bring up a question of when you're in the Dropbox folder, can you synchronize there without having to go to your page and push the button?
At the current time, you have to go to the page in order to synchronize it. And I think that in part the stations want to make sure that there is some control on what goes up. But I think that we're very open to developing and evolving this application so that it works for the stations and for the public.
I think I just wanted to remind people that they have to make sure they go up there actually.
Yes, right. But this will, right. And I think that we can also explore that you could just do it locally and never have to visit the FCC's website.
Once it's in Dropbox, do you need to keep it there in the Dropbox side of things,
Right.
the commission side of things?
The question was, once you put the file into Dropbox and you transmit it to the FCC, do you need to still leave it in the Dropbox folder? And the answer is no, you do not. Now, I think that one of the questions that has come up is mirroring the files. This would certainly be an expedient way to keep a mirror of the files if you do leave them there. It seems to be that some people want to have them leave and do synchronization, and other people are like, well, I want to drop it and synchronize it. It's kind of like a little magic wormhole to the FCC's website. And part of it is that we keep a copy of it separate than the Dropbox in case that you accidentally delete something, and that you could go back and recover it out of the trash just as you would in other situations. Okay, so I'm coming pretty much to the end of the demonstration. I do want to show one thing really quickly, a little highlight of some stuff that we're working on. We have set up a couple of computers over here that if you want to actually come and sit and click around on the public file, you would be able to do that. So the last thing that I want to show, is that these documents, we are going to be providing some search to make it easier to find documents. And I'm not going to do this very much because this is still much more in development of what we're working on. But you can see that I would be able to do a search, be able to get a preview of the document, and navigate around that document. Be able to search across all within a given station or search across all of the stations. You have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry I was a little bit late. You might have done this, or you might
Sure.
So what am I going to look at when I go into the broadcaster file?
Sure.
To find out where the money is coming from?
Okay, so, right. So let me just sign out completely from the broadcaster. So I've now just signed out from the broadcaster side. There a particular station that you would be interested in?
Oh, let's do JLA.
Okay. So WJLA, right? So I would be able to go to the political file. And within the political file, I could navigate to federal, state, or local, or the non-candidate issue ads. and I'd be able to go to a candidate, and there would be files right in here. I just logged out, but if we don't have a file, it's very easy for broadcasters to create a file. Just click a button, create the file, and create the folder, and it's available. So I think that really concludes the highlights of what we wanted to show with the interface. Have we had any questions from, we've had a couple of questions from the live side. Okay, right. Okay, so I want to let everybody know who's watching this that we have recorded this entire webcast, and we will also do some shorter videos that show in more detail what's happening on the screen, because we're understanding that some people can't quite see the details from the webcast. So we'll provide that in higher resolution.
Is the commission expecting each buy, since we have it in folders by federal, state, district, and candidate, I'm going to create one PDF for one buy, as opposed to sucking out those 100 pages?
Do you want to answer that? Okay, so the question is does the FCC expect the stations to create a single document for each buy? And I think the answer that we have been working on the technology side is to make it easy to do what you are currently doing. In whatever your current practices are for maintaining your file, we would support those practices.
And the short answer to it is that what they've been doing for many years, and I would continue to do, would be to create the required documents for each transaction. They wouldn't be able to aggregate them together into a single document. Is that exactly what the question is? Okay. So we have a few different questions. I'm just going to from the live webcast. I'm just going to answer a few of these questions, and then what I think that we'll do is we'll put together some type of FAQ or answer some of these questions inside of a blog post that we're doing. These questions tend to be along the lines of what level of supervision. What level of FCC supervision of what stations will make available in the public file? I mean, we're going to be available, as the FCC has always been, to answer questions about what's inside the public file. We will do some webinars about using the online public file. We'll have a support line, and as we have resolutions to any questions, we can include them on the help pages in terms of what files should be included. Yes, I did say that the stations can submit any of the traditional file formats. They can either upload those or include them in their Dropbox. Yes, more than one person at a station can be on the site at the same time, logged into it. And likewise, Dropbox and Box, these file sharing services, offer lots of flexibility, and with lots of flexibility comes a level of responsibility. But it would be possible to set up the synchronized files on multiple machines and support those.
Along those lines, if you're logging in with one FRN to support multiple stations, would each station have its own Dropbox, or would the entire FRN have one subdivided Dropbox?
I'm navigating. So would each station need its own Dropbox? Or would an FRN support connections to multiple Dropboxes? So let me answer it this way by saying I've just navigated to the top of the FCC Public Inspection File application, and you'll notice that I've created one folder for a station. So it is possible to have a Dropbox account, to have your file synchronization account associated with more than one station. I believe the other is the other possible being, is it possible that I can have 3 different file sharing accounts associated with a single station?
Or a single FRN?
With
one for each station.
Well, yeah, it does. But there's what we've done is we've paired the file sharing service with the station so that you could pair more than one account with this. I think we might, I think we can support multiple accounts paired with the same station, I think. Would that would be helpful if that was, or?
Multiple accounts to the same FRN, so each station.
Oh, yeah, that's no problem at all. That's no problem at all. The idea that if you have because the FRNs it's really paired with the station, and you can add and remove that at any time. There was a question here about file naming nomenclature. Our goal is to keep it simple. Our goal is to pre-populate the folder names of the candidates so that there is a common nomenclature that everyone is using, and we have some ideas of how to make it easy, but at the same time, it's your public file. If there may be particular reasons you're making choices to keep the file well organized, so you have that control. But we hope to facilitate a common naming of the folders. I think with respect to the file names, it's whatever the file names would work best for you, because we recognize that you may have some documents that you're moving from a few years ago. You may have some other reasons that you're naming files a particular way with the political file. So we're not enforcing a nomenclature on the file names. But we are trying to create some type of standard with the folder names and to facilitate that. So I need a cue if we're at a good stopping point, or I keep going. I mean, if I can keep going if it's helpful.
Can I ask one big
Sure.
final question? When's it going to be available for us to start uploading documents?
We're really working hard to make it available for you to start uploading documents before the 2nd. But I can't give a firm date. But in the meanwhile, sorry?
But by the 2nd, for sure.
By the 2nd, for sure. By the 2nd, for sure. And we want to do it earlier than that. So we're more than happy to do some webinars or to have some phone calls or some other sessions with individual stations or groups of stations in order to answer questions and try things out. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there, and I will certainly be here for a little bit more. We have it up on some other stations. I want to thank the Media Bureau for really engaging with the technology people on this project as we were researching different possibilities and figuring out how to do it. It's been a very close collaboration. I also want to thank an FCC contractor, Computech, who has been working very hard on this application with us, and the very attractive interface that you're seeing, and I certainly like a great deal, is the work of Uma, who's here on my right, as well as another Computech staff member, Yvonne. So, and I think that they deserve a round of applause. So thank you very much for coming to this demonstration, and we'll be here to answer some more questions.